Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21 Hats podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Feldman. If you've been listening to this podcast, you probably know we started it with the idea that it would kind of be the view for business owners. Once a week, we'd sit down with our cast of regulars and have a conversation in which they would compare notes on the challenges they were facing in their own businesses, along with tackling larger issues all owners face, like pricing, hiring, marketing, and building a culture. And then the world changed. The View for Business Owners has morphed into the Coronavirus Diaries. For the past few weeks, and probably for the foreseeable future, when we get together on Skype, it's to compare notes on how each of our business owners is coping, managing, surviving the crisis. As you'll soon hear in this week's conversation, there's a pretty stark divide. This week's 21 Hats podcast lineup includes William Vanderbloemen, who is founder and CEO of Vanderbloemen Search Group, a recruiting firm that specializes in working with churches and other faith-based organizations. Dana White, who is founder and CEO of Paralee Boyd, a chain of hair salons based in Detroit. And Laura Zander, who is co-founder and CEO of Jimmy Bean's Wool, a digital version of a neighborhood yarn shop that is based in Reno, Nevada. At the time we recorded the podcast on Friday, March 27th, the day President Trump signed the CARES Act, the stimulus package that targets $349 billion in forgivable loans towards small businesses, Dana had zero revenue coming in. She had had to shut down her hair salons. William still had some revenue coming in, but expected that to end fairly soon. Meanwhile, with Americans stuck at home, Laura Zander found herself riding a wave of knitting. I mean, I hate to say it, she said, apologetically, but our numbers are really high. They're really good right now. One thing William, Dana, and Laura all have in common is they are all struggling a bit, trying to figure out how best to manage their employees during this unprecedented time. You can find a transcript of the conversation at 21hats.com. Welcome, everyone, to another coronavirus special edition of the 21 Hats podcast. If you hear a little buzzing in the background, I'm not in my usual podcast studio, and that background buzz is being donated generously by the leaf blowers in my neighbor's yard.
They're 6 feet away from you, though, at least, right?
From me, but not from each other, which is a little concerning.
With a blower, too.
Yes,
blower,
exactly.
too, right?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Lauren, I feel your pain. We've gone remote at our work, and I have lost track of how many people's children I've seen run across the background in a diaper or dogs bark or all the things.
I'm so glad this is audio. Let's get a quick update from each of you. I want to hear how you're doing, where things stand with your businesses. Dana, we last spoke with you 2 weeks ago when you were still focused on what you needed to do to keep your hair salons open in Detroit. I gather that's no longer possible.
So the governor did issue an executive order for pretty much all non-essential businesses to close. So we are closed. I closed about 2-3 days before she required us to close.
Why did you do that? What prompted it?
I was concerned that, there might be somebody who comes in to the salon and might, infect my staff. No matter how clean we were in the salon, we couldn't control that. The other thing was the volume. On our busy days, we were seeing about half that volume than we normally would on a busy day. So when I looked at the numbers and I thought about my staff, I went ahead and decided to lay off everybody. I also, my network told me that this is coming, and I wanted my staff to be able to file for unemployment before the mad rush.
Laura, when we spoke last week, you had just gone through a tough layoff at the company you bought in Texas, but your online yarn sales were holding up pretty well.
Kind of the same thing. We did a layoff. We're in much better shape. I think that we're going to be able to afford, especially with the paid leave acts, we'll be able to afford to keep everybody and pay them full time, even if they aren't able to work full time down in Texas. Our Reno business and the online business, I mean, I hate to say it, but our numbers are really high. They're really good right now. They did both of our states, both Nevada and Texas, or the counties that were in lockdowns as well, but both of our businesses are excluded from those lockdowns.
Because your distribution businesses?
Yes. In Nevada, it's manufacturing, distribution, and storage is excluded. Those are essential businesses. And then in Texas, if you are supplying online sales, then it's excluded. So as long as you're closed to the public and you're, employing the safety, the health regulations. So we're still operating. I mean, we have a half staff in Texas so that we can keep people as far away from each other as possible. So they're way more than 6 feet apart from each other. But yeah, I mean, we're actually doing okay. And, if you go look at Google Trends, you'll see that, up there with toilet paper is how to knit. We're getting more and more new customers. In fact, we're launching on April 1st, typically they call it a knit along, is when a whole bunch of people get together and they knit on the same project at the same time. Well, we've been planning for about 2 years to do a shit along where we have custom toilet paper
you love
made.
telling us about that, Laura. You bring this up every opportunity you get.
You know what? I had this idea forever ago. I'm not jumping on the toilet paper bandwagon. But anyway, so we're launching our shit along next week. We've got, there's a yarn called Comfort that we're going to be using. So we're really excited.
Sounds great. William, this is your first time with us in a while. How have things been going for you and your business? Is it operating?
Well, that's always a question, isn't it, Lauren?
No, it's not. You have a great business.
It's interesting. It has been a while. We were very harried in January and February, probably absolutely the best start to a year we've ever had, which was a real blessing.
And why was that? What was going on that?
I think some of the things we've talked about in previous episodes where we set up to scale, where we have a new CEO in place, our systems are taught rather than caught. All that flywheel finally hit a point where it was turning, if that makes sense. So
it's not that January 1st, everybody decides for their New Year's resolution.
No, we're used
church.
to that. That happens every year. No,
Does
everyone's
really?
Everyone's going to lose 10 pounds and balance their checkbook and hire that new staff person. That's very normal surge for us. I'm talking January, February over previous January, February's much, much higher. We were bemoaning the fact that we might not have a March that was 20 or 25% better than last March. And boy, I'd like to eat my words.
So what happened?
We're in a very uncharted territory, Lauren, for a couple reasons, and I want to learn from you all in this. One, we've never been through a downturn in charitable giving. So we started in the Great Recession. I'm the idiot that quit a stable job and started a new small business that was a new idea for churches in the middle of the worst recession we'd ever seen. And so we came through that, and in a lot of ways it was helpful because we started small when there was little business and we could learn our trade. But I don't know the corollary of if giving drops by 10%, then our business drops by this percent. I don't know that corollary at all. And then compounding that ignorance is, the way I think you tell the future is by looking in the past, right? It's pretty repetitive. And so you look to the past and say, when has this happened before? And so much of this, everybody says, well, we're in uncharted ground. We're in uncharted ground. There has never in human history been a time when people of faith, all faiths everywhere, have been restricted from gathering for a number of weeks. That's never, ever, ever happened. So there's no real way to know. I mean, obviously, if they're not meeting, they're not hiring. If they're not hiring, they're not hiring me. So we know that, and we're built. We can withstand a blizzard easy. We're built to withstand a winter. I don't quite know what happens if it's really an ice age. That's kind of the three. If you follow the former preacher with metaphors, that's kind of the three phases we're looking at. And I think it looks more like winter to us.
So now you have no revenue coming in at all, essentially?
That's right. Well, we've got revenue coming in because we build things, but we have no sales coming in. So in May and in June, we'll feel that, right? But what that means is we've decided, because we have been careful with our cash, we've said, okay, serve your clients as best you can. But even the searches we're doing right now, most people are like, let's wait till we can interview the guy face to face. So everything's sort of hit pause, and now we've taken a time to say, all right, here's where we're going to plant seed and the fruit will come later. And so we've spent,
I was just going to say, how interesting that they want to interview face to face when there's the potential, and I know that's an isolated case, but there's the potential that the new church is more online and more digital than ever.
That's the trendy thing to say, but I think you're dead wrong.
Interesting.
So not to get all scriptural on you, but whether you're Jewish or Christian, the creation narrative in Genesis starts with God creates the heavens and the earth. He creates light, and he says, that's really good. And it's a benediction. This is good. And then he creates the earth, and he says, it's good. And it goes through several things. He gets to creating us, humans, and looks at us and says, that's very good. So there are all these benedictions. Good, 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 good. The first malediction, the first curse in the Jewish and Christian scriptures, the first thing God says, this is not good. He says, it is not good for you all to be alone. There's a thing in the people that we work with that you can't replicate physical human connection. And I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but there are more people walking up and down our sidewalks at the beginning and end of the day right now. People are just dying to see each other, even from 6 feet away. Whether it's writing the messages on the sidewalk in chalk for people, or that, virtual has been awesome. And in a lot of ways, I'm so thankful that this didn't hit until the church was ready to go online and giving could happen digitally and all those things. But it's really a Band-Aid. It's just a bridge. And I predict that when this is over, there will be a storm surge of attendance at religious gatherings.
See, that is so interesting because, and I don't mean to sound sacrilegious, but our industry, the knitting industry, is a religion in its own right. If you will, I mean, people, we all worship together. We kind of get together. It's meditative, blah blah blah. But what we're seeing, because our industry is very community and in-person focused as well. It's just knitting clubs, knitting groups, knitting guilds, all these events, all that kind of stuff. But we're seeing this new model of the hybrid really taking hold, where we're using digital, Instagram Live and all these digital technologies. We don't think they're going to go away. We think that it's going to end up, and because so many of the small businesses and the small gathering places we think are going to go away, that it's going to have to end up being a mix of, you have to have a good digital presence and have a good digital personality. Plus, you have to be somebody who is warm and welcoming in person. So in our industry, I do see the resurgence of people flocking to the shops, to our churches, if you will. But we think that there's some really innovative, interesting things going to be happening digital wise, because, as you know, and as we all know, this isn't going to go away. I mean, the virus stuff is here to stay.
First of all, totally agree with you. There will be some things in our clients' work that will go digital. I think a lot of committee meetings. I think of a lot of small group stuff. I think of the cost effectiveness of doing a children's ministry online rather than having 1,000 volunteers and letting people do it in their homes, which connects families. So there are a lot of cool innovations that'll come. But the baseline of gathering together, like the oldest word for church is the gathering. So that's just not going to stop. So for us, it bifurcates. There's the really big churches, and it's thousands of people gathering. Well, they're going to have a whole different mindset than the normal church. So normal church in America is 100 people that get together. This is not a massive business. This is 8 or 9 families that all have cousins related to one another. And it'd be like telling them to do family dinner online, which we tried doing last week. It's better than nothing, but it's still just a bridge.
So, William, what does this mean for you? Where do you stand? Is your business still operating? Did you have to lay people off? What's going on?
Not clear yet. The CARES Act, I guess is the right word for it, that they're still debating in the House, that the Senate passed, has a big effect on us. I know it's reading the update this morning, there's a lot of consensus that maybe it's not enough, but it's certainly a help. We built cash reserves for crises. Frankly, I don't know. I mean, I've sat and beat myself up, Lauren, over and over and over. William, why didn't you build 5 years of cash reserves or 10, some ridiculous pile of money? And it's because I was
because you're not Richard Branson.
And that's how exactly. I totally beat myself up.
Well, no, now listen, days. But I sit and beat myself up and say, why didn't I see this coming? Well, we have all these. If Williams' plane went down, this is how it works, and it's going to work fine. If we lost 3 consultants, this is how it works. If there were a PR nightmare, this is how it would work. We never foresaw, what if churches couldn't meet for 6-8 weeks? So we're like flying blind, Lauren. So I don't know. I do know that on the other side of this, there's going to be a massive need for a different kind of leader. At the large church, it's going to have to be somebody who can preach from their iPhone with their kids hanging off their neck like Jimmy Fallon's doing right now, and command a room. And that's going to be different. And they're going to have to be like online kids pastors, and nobody knows how to hire for that. In our school practice, schools move slightly faster than glaciers, barely, right? So they have been the last to the party on online education, unless you go to, University of Phoenix or one of the newer kids. And all these old established schools that hire us are having to find a new kind of headmaster that can think through a digital lens. So I think our business is very bullish once we get through this chasm. I just don't know how long the chasm is. So we're trying to figure that out. And does that mean layoffs or furloughs or all kinds of creative things? And fortunately, the help that the government is providing is offering some help. Like everybody, I wish it were more, but it is some help.
Dana, I think I heard you start to say you've been beating yourself up over not planning for something like this. What were you thinking?
So, why didn't I have 3 months of cash reserve ready to go? Why didn't I work harder? Why didn't I make more money? Why was I tired? Right? Why didn't I have, if I woulda, coulda, shoulda? For like 3 or 4 days after the executive order was passed, it was to open or not to open, to stay open or not stay open. And after speaking with my mentor, the business community here in Metro Detroit has been amazing. Speaking with other Goldman Sachs alum, and they said, you're asking the wrong question. The question isn't to open or not to stay open. You're going to stay open, right? But the question is, who is Paralee Boyd once you reopen? And how do you keep and engage your customers while they're away? And so that's what I've been working on. It's, doing the work. We, similarly to William, we don't have any revenue, and we can't operate and not be within 6 feet of our customers. So if we can't be within 6 feet of our customers, we have to close. So it's a matter of, okay, how long does this go and how do you keep your customers engaged? A lot of people said, well, Dana, why don't you do gift cards online? My guests don't want to pay 2-3 weeks in advance for their service. They want to get their service, pay and go, right? So what I'm working on now is who is Paralee Boyd when we reopen, and I'm focused more on looking forward. Because I know we're going to be jammed. We've had customers email us and say, I hope you guys are ready.
Have you thought about things you might be able to do to help during this period? I mean, everybody I know is a little bit concerned about how quickly their hair is growing and what they're going to do about that before their next Zoom call.
My favorite tweet so far is, I guess we're 2 weeks from finding out what everybody's hair color really is.
I guess hair color, is not the biggest thing. It's just, for us, it's a matter of just doing it, right? Just the doing it, because my guests come to me to do their hair, right? So whereas other people do their hair every day at home, sometimes my guests come to me and to get their hair done. So what I'm thinking about doing, and maybe the time will allow for this, is doing hair care kits at home, which they can pick up or we can ship. But again, that takes time. So I've got the trial kits coming to me right now from Texas, and seeing what that looks like. Does it work? Because I've got to try it on myself first. And then if it works out great, then we can start doing that depending on how long this goes. So if it goes until April 13th, we don't have enough time. Right. I don't have enough time to do that. But if it goes as long as people say it's going to go, I will have time for that. Again, the focus for me is looking forward, right? And just saying, who is Paralee Boyd? Are we a company that ships and does videos on hair care at home? Are we a company that modifies their processes and adds new treatments and services for when we reopen? Time will tell.
Can you do both?
We can, but again, I'm the type of business that, I don't want you to do your hair at home because we can do it better in the salon. So if I'm focusing on, I might change the narrative from doing your hair at home to, hey, you're traveling. This is what you can do when you're away. But when you come back, come to us. Right. So I don't want to do, hey, everybody, don't come to us anymore. Here's what you could do at home. I'd rather say, hey, if you're going on a trip and can't get to us, here's what you can do. So that might be the avenue once we reopen.
Dana, that's exactly what we're faced with. Mm-hmm. So like for us, I don't want to over spiritualize things, but the worship service is the echo of heaven for people who believe, whether that's a Muslim, Christian, Jewish person. And it's discombobulated and it's human, so it's not perfect, but it's the echo. Well, now with online, we're having to do the echo of the echo. And that's kind of how we're framing it. Like, this is the best thing possible for now, but it in no way replaces the fundamental need for the service itself.
Exactly. Yep, that's my thing. In no way. And I've had guests say to me, I would do my hair at home, but you guys do it better. And that's it. I mean,
that's it.
You can do it. Having a stylist stand behind you and do your hair is very different than you raising your arms up and having to do your hair, in the back.
And that will always be the case, but maybe there's an opportunity to just help people get through this period. Here's some tricks just for now.
Agreed. But time may not allow for it. Right. So if I had known in January that on March 15th that the governor was going to shut it down, I would have had kits and bags and brushes and everything, videos posted and everything ready. But if it goes to where the executive order said till April 13th, I don't have time.
I wouldn't bet the house on April 13th being the time.
Exactly. So what I'm doing is saying, okay, it's going to be longer. How can we get these hair care kits out? And then say, okay, if it is going to be longer or not, how do we take the hair care kits and say hair on the go? So when you can't get to us.
Dana, is anybody doing how to make your own hair care kit at home? Kind of, is anybody leading? Everybody right now is making their own antibacterial soap or whatever, or their own sprays. Has anybody done a whole using the stuff that you have in your house?
No. You're talking about Black women in their hair. They're not. They are going to go to the store and get shampoo before they try to make something in their home. Hand sanitizer is different. It's 2 ingredients, aloe vera and alcohol, and it evaporates and you're done. When you're talking about putting something in your hair, they want to know and go to a trusted brand that they know.
Even during a pandemic?
Absolutely. Some women are going to wear protective styles until it's time to come out, right? And then come to Paralee Boyd and get their hair done, right? So again, it's understanding the hair culture for my market is very different, right? We can't wash our hair every day. It would break off, be dry and brittle. It would be a mess, right? The natural oils in our hair help preserve our hair, but you're not supposed to keep the natural oils in your hair for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. So if I could get a hair kit together in the next 2 weeks, I'm okay. It's not as soon as it would have been helpful. But even for me, I'm going to the store and buying shampoo. I would never mix anything in my house, and I'm pretty stocked. To put on my hair thinking, and risk damaging it for when this is over. Mm-mm.
I'd like to talk a little bit about your employees and how you're dealing with them, how stressed out they are. Laura, I gather some of your employees may actually have even been sick with coronavirus. What's it been like with your employees? How stressed are they?
It's funny that you asked that because I wanted to ask the same question. That's one of the things that I'm really struggling with is that I am not panicking about this, and it's actually causing me a lot of anxiety that I don't have anxiety, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Some of my employees that are healthy, that are coming in and working, are just freaking out, and I don't understand what people are freaking out about, especially for us. They still have their jobs. We are doing really well right now. Nobody's sick. Back in January, we went to a big trade show with probably about 15,000 people in one hotel in New York. And I'm venturing that about a third of the people got really ill for a week or two with, some sort of flu. We didn't know what it was at the time. And then we brought it back to the office, and then everybody at the office was sick. And so we kind of collectively think that this has already run through our office a few months ago. And so we don't really have anybody that's ill right now. I was going to ask Dana and William what their experiences are. And that's one of the things I'm trying to work on is developing some empathy, because I don't, I kind of thrive in chaos and in crisis. It's what I grew up in, and it's my comfort zone. So I'm having a little trouble not getting frustrated with people for freaking out.
I have a question, Laura. Would you be less comfortable if your sales were 90% down?
I definitely would. And in Texas, that business is losing money every single day. Absolutely.
But like overall, like if it's not just like Texas, if just looking at the numbers and you saw, whoa, 90%, would you, I think that's what,
totally.
I guess my point. Yeah. So I think that's my point. I think you have a comfort of funding, right? You're making money. There's some revenue coming in. And I think that's part of the reason why you're not panicking. I think you're spot on. You're not panicking because you know yourself. And I think you thrive, not in chaos, but I think you thrive in productive chaos, right?
Totally. Yes. Yeah. Well, but that's my question is we are doing okay. And so we do nobody's going to lose their job, in fact, we're actually understaffed right now. And so I'm having trouble identifying with the panic that some of my employees are having when things are comfortable for them.
William, what's your situation? How stressed are your employees?
Well, it's hard to tell virtually, isn't it? That's the trick, right? Right now, most of our team members either are very active in their church or have been on a church staff. So they've all gone into crisis mode and have probably given me the most productive week we've had in years. It's been amazing to see just how hard folks are working. Are they concerned about a layoff? I'm sure they are. I would be too. I think what I'm having to do as a leader is, on the one hand, and I think we're going to see this in our clients' needs, they're going to need a senior leader who is better at the soft skills than ever, because the need for empathy, the need for a pastoral sense is going to be needed from every CEO in the world, not just people who are pastors for a living. So on the one hand, I need to be pastoral and compassionate. On the other hand, I'm eternally optimistic. Every glass is half full, and I have to be careful not to be Pollyannish with them, so that if something sudden were to happen, or if we were to cross a line where we've got to make some really sudden changes, they're not caught off guard saying, "Wait, we never saw this coming."
Same page. I'm on exactly the same page, William. Yeah,
I'm not. My staff is freaking out, and several of them have threatened to quit.
They're furloughed, but they're threatening to quit, you're saying, for good.
Yes.
And why?
Because they're not understanding why they're not getting paid throughout the pandemic. They don't understand. My managers do. And that's really hard. Some of the comments have judged me as a business owner. If you were a real business owner, you'd be able to support us through this time. If, you knew how to manage money better, you'd be able to support us through this time.
There are good answers to those questions, Dana. Are you struggling with that, or do you feel comfortable with the answers you've given?
I feel comfortable with the answers I've given because they're honest answers. There's nothing I'm hiding, and there's nothing, that's our culture, right? There's nothing that I'm hiding, and there's nothing that I'm not willing to share. I'm not taking it personally. I understand that they're uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. And I have my managers who support me because I've explained to them and shared with them step by step what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But my concern is that when we open, we will be short-staffed. And my guests have said, I hope you're ready when it's time to open, because you're going to be swamped. But, my managers have told me they
don't really understand how the business works.
Well, it's that, and they don't want to leave Paralee Boyd. Like, they literally were saying to me the day before I made the decision, we support you. We love working here. We did a check-in 3 days before. Everybody chimed in. Love working here. Love working with Dana. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. And then this hit. And now, I want to quit. I want to quit. I want to quit. It's panic.
Dana, are you fully up on the stimulus package that William was referring to? It hasn't completely passed yet. It hasn't been signed, but there may be help in that package for your business and for your employees. Do you know what you need to know?
Yes, but the concern with that is the timeline. My staff wants money today, and they want guarantees today. So a loan, disaster relief takes longer than today. And so it's me, my managers are doing a great job managing their demand. And I'm doing all I can to get paperwork and everything I need to submit it, also without hurting the business. So I don't want to respond and do a knee-jerk reaction and get a loan and all of a sudden, oh no, right? Because I was panicking too. I signed up for something that probably didn't work out for me in the back end. So it's about having these conversations with your accountants to making sure, to extrapolate what this looks like over the next year.
William, do you have any thoughts on that? I know you did a Facebook Live. You've studied the package, and you're trying to help other businesses and other organizations understand what's in it. Do you have any advice for someone who's asking the question, what do I do until I can apply for those loans and actually get them, which could take who knows how long?
Yeah, well, all the guidance that we've gotten, and I'm not the expert on this, our COO combed through all 880 pages, and he's a Harvard MBA and all the things that I'm not. So he's the one that should answer the questions. But everything we're seeing is that despite the bureaucracy that is undoubtedly coming, the message from the SBA to local lenders is very clear. Get money in people's hands quickly. In fact, I went ahead and reached out to our banker before the thing passed, and they already had things to us. So I think it's going to be quicker than the ordinary bureaucratic sit on hold forever kind of thing. The reason we took great interest in it, it started with a personal interest of what if I'm going to have to pay the back end tax of this $2 trillion thing later, I might as well enjoy the front end now. So how can this help our business? But on about Saturday or Sunday of last week, nonprofits and 501c3s and churches were all added into the bill. They were previously not included. Well, this is a lifeline to the normal sized church of 100 where payroll is 65% of their overhead. So we did a Facebook Live. And if you go to Facebook and just type in Vanderbloemen and you can spell it however you want, then you'll find a link there. We set up a separate website to pool resources on this COVID. And it's everything from how to do remote meetings to this SBA bill. It is churchcovid19.com. And there you'll find an hour-long detailed presentation on how do you calculate what you're actually going to get from the government? How do you go about applying for it? It's very granular. If you're the semi-ADD CEO, find someone else on your staff to watch it. But Lauren, it was this week, we've had 5 times the traffic on our website of any other week ever. And it all goes back to that Facebook Live event, because you can search all over for what does this bill mean, and you'll find a 600-word blog post here or there with a sentence or two for small businesses, but nobody's really dug into it yet. I'm sure there'll be others, but as we did our Facebook Live, nobody else had done it, and it really caught on. So that's where I'd point people.
Thank you. I'm going to go watch that today.
You can also find a link to it in today's 21 Hats morning report. If you haven't subscribed to that, you can do so at 21hats.com.
And Lauren, sorry, you told us to talk over each other, so I will. I was talking to the COO.
I've been trying.
Talking to my COO today, and he said he's shocked how many accountants, lawyers, and CFOs are calling him, asking him for more guidance, because apparently he got it right. And the stuff that's coming out now from Inc. and from E&Y, it all is very congruent with what we put out there. So we're not lawyers, we're not accountants, but I think it would be helpful.
Well, you have a direct line to God, so I think it should be right.
Hey,
right?
That does it. That does it.
Yeah.
Laura, did you have a question for me? when we were talking earlier? I thought you might have.
I was just going to ask, have you done a GoFundMe or anything? We've seen that with some of the smaller shops, the retail stores that have had to close in our industry.
Yeah.
So they're just putting up hey, give me money.
Yeah, so I've seen them, and their numbers are dismal. I've seen a couple of them here, and they're asking for $1,000. They've got $25, $100.
Got it.
So it's like,
But then you feel confident that you're on top of the stimulus package and know what you need to do there.
Yes, this has not been a downtime.
Are you doing it all yourself, or are you getting help?
I'm doing it all myself. So it's webinar after Facebook Live, after conference call, and I have to say the Detroit community has been amazing about getting the information out, getting the answers to your question as quickly as possible. I applied for the Detroit Stabilization Grant on a Friday, was awarded $2,500 on Wednesday. So they're not wasting any time. Landlords are really stepping up. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
I saw Dan Gilbert and Bedrock are putting off rent payments. Are you in a Bedrock property?
I am not, but my landlord in Midtown is amazing. And so, I'm not too concerned about their compassion or what they'll be willing to work out with me during this time. So I just the response time here for people has been really good. I literally just got an email saying, hey, the state of Michigan now has a small business grant and loan program organized by county. The application just went live about 5 minutes ago. So okay, Dana, apply for that. So there's just been so much information about how you can get through this. My biggest things are, my loans and my people and my rent. I don't want to take out another loan in addition to the loan I have. I want to consolidate and move forward. And I don't know if that's an option for me now. So it's just about doing the homework and finding out what is the best, situation that works for Paralee Boyd going forward. I'm really worried about making a decision that will hurt me in the long run. Even though the disaster loan, I don't think it will. It's just one more thing. And I just would rather just weigh my options carefully and then pull the trigger.
I don't think anybody would argue with that. And obviously, we will continue to track the decisions that all of you make in the weeks that come. We're out of time. Needless to say, we will be discussing all of this, lots more. Thank you for your time today. My thanks to Dana White, William Vanderblumen, and Laura Zander. Be careful out there, everybody.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This episode was produced by Jess Thuberon, founder of Blank Word Productions. Remember, we started the 21 Hats podcast to help business owners feel a little less isolated, to let them know they aren't the only ones fighting these battles. If you got something out of this conversation, please help us reach more people. Tell a friend, subscribe and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at 21_hats. And let me know if you have a question or a comment or a topic you'd like us to cover. My email address is lfeldman@21hats.com. See you next time.